Hi, good afternoon, Rachel. How are you?
Hello. Hi.
It's so nice to see you.
You
Ladies and
too.
gentlemen, let me introduce you to Rachel Vecht. Rachel Vecht, apart from being a friend of ours, her and her husband Philip are pillars of our community here in St. John's Wood. Rachel, in her own right, is very well known, both as a former teacher, but also for starting Educating Matters. Educating Matters is an incredible organization which reaches out to individuals, to corporates, companies, families, private work, all sorts of people across the community and beyond to help advise and parents how to parent their children, tips and advice. I can tell you firsthand, having an amazing wife who's been on Rachel's 10-week parenting course, she has certainly mastered some of the skills that perhaps I could do some help with. But I'm very grateful to Rachel for joining us this afternoon. I thought it would be interesting to do a little interview to discuss some of the issues that we are facing in this current national crisis. So before I begin, first of all, give us an update. How are you doing? How is life?
Well, since we last saw each other, which was Purim, the next day I felt terribly ill, like you, and I didn't get tested positive, but I had all the symptoms, and I was ill for about 18 days. So this week is the first week I feel more like myself, and having 4 kids and being really unwell, and having this barrage of emails of companies and individuals asking for help and advice has been challenging. But now that I'm feeling better, I've got more energy, and actually it's going quite well. I mean, obviously there's awful things going on outside, including to members of our community, but I also think there are lots of positives about this situation for families.
Okay, thanks for that. If I could begin just to ask you, obviously it's very challenging to work from home at the best of times. Working from home when you've got all your children around you is an extra challenge. What advice would you share with parents who are now working from home?
Well, I have been delivering webinars to hundreds of parents in a corporate setting on this topic over the last few days. And the main advice I'm giving is to be realistic about what you can achieve in a day. And even if you're used to working from home, like you've said, it's very different when you've got your children around. And especially for you with young children, if your children can see you, they want to be with you. So it's quite difficult to explain, no, I'm doing this call or I'm having this online meeting, and that doesn't mean that I'm available to you. So I think you've got to be realistic about what you can achieve and communicate that with the rest of your working team and your line manager. And also be aware that if one day goes smoothly, that doesn't guarantee that the next day will. Now, one of the techniques that I always teach parents is called setting up for success. And this is about setting things up for your children so they're more likely to get things right in advance rather than reacting when things go wrong. So one of the quotes I like is failing to plan is planning to fail. So for example, if you've got a situation, so like now you're on a Zoom call, you want to have an interview, hopefully without being disturbed by your kids. How can you set that up to minimize the chance of being disturbed? So maybe before the meeting, you will say to your children, or before any meeting, if this sign, and get them to make a do not disturb sign for you, if this sign is on my door, this means I really need this quiet time on my own, and you can only interrupt me if there's an emergency. Now, if they're old enough, you can explain and talk to them what is an emergency, and needing a bit of help with homework, or for you to, I don't know if they're young, help them wipe their bum is not an emergency when you're having a work call. If they're really young, this is an idea that I came up with this morning actually, that I shared because I did a talk for parents of children with special needs. And a lot of young children need a really visual reminder. So I was thinking, put on something red, which means don't disturb. If you're wearing something yellow, I mean, you could make it quite fun. That means I'm ready to play with you. But it's setting them up so they know what to expect. And if you are trying to work on something, It's only feasible, if your partner is also busy and you're wanting them not to disturb you, to make sure they have got other ideas of what they could be doing to keep themselves busy. So you can have something like a boredom box where you put in it, these are the things, you can brainstorm the things you can do when you're busy. And also with older children, I'm finding that parallel working works really well. So for example, Eliana, my 10-year-old, quite likes to sit at my desk whilst I'm working on answering emails or writing a new webinar, and she's sitting beside me getting on with her work. And I've explained sometimes you can ask me questions, but if it's quiet time that I need to work, we can work besides each other.
Sure.
But that works better for older kids.
We've been doing that a little bit in our house for davening hour, where the children are all doing the davening at the same time. Although the other day I was live streaming my davening to the whole community and my son decided to walk in, which was fine. I got him to daven with me in front of everyone, but it definitely is a challenge. But those are some really practical, useful tips.
And one other thing is having zones, like clearly defined zones. So you might have a work area, a play area, a quiet area, a grown-up zone.
Oh.
And you can have a bit of fun with the kids of how do you distinguish these different areas and maybe decorate them.
Interesting. Okay, thanks so much. My next question for you is, obviously we are bombarded all day long with messages on the news, social media, about the difficult global situation taking place and unfolding. It's a very uncertain and worrying time, not just for children, for adults as well. And my question to you is really, how do you explain to the kids what's happening in an age-appropriate response? Do you have any tips for parents who are worried to discuss these topics with the kids? I know my son was in the room, we were watching the BBC News, and he just like looked at me shell-shocked, and we were really panicking. What advice would you share for parents on how to express what's going on?
Okay, well, firstly, I think a lot of parents would have already had quite a number of conversations explaining, they've got over the idea that they're not going to school and they can't see their friends and their grandparents and they're not going to shul and all the rest of it. I think exactly the point you made, it's very important to be aware of when the news is on and what young children in particular could be exposed to and could be listening to. I think before you speak to your child, you need to ensure that you are feeling calm and in a centered place. And it's okay to be uncertain. You don't have to have all the answers. So many parents, and I've done so many talks on this in the past, on how to raise a resilient child and how to help a child cope with setbacks.
Sorry, I would not allow this to happen. I would not have allowed this to happen had it not been before our session.
Hi.
Say hello.
Hi. So yeah, you need to do the setting up for success, which is warning. Right, kids, I'm going to have 10 minutes. I'm going to put the timer on and you can come to me when the timer goes off.
For our next interview, please go on.
What was I can't remember what I was saying.
You were telling me about age-appropriate responses.
Oh yes, so make sure you're in a place. And I was talking about resilience. So coping with managing setbacks, kids will be really able to do that. After all the disappointments of cancelled birthday parties, my daughter Dahlia was 17 the other day, missed her first, been counting the hours till her first driving test. So I think it's, for young children up to about the age of 5, they are, to be honest, and it's not a negative thing, they are very egocentric. So only frame the conversation around their needs and how they're going to be affected. Keep it short, get down to their level, and maybe just share a couple of ideas with them. You can also talk, I heard a psychiatrist say this once before, about the rose and the thorn in their day. So the rose is something really nice that happens, something they're really happy and grateful for. And the thorn is maybe something about this situation that upsets them. And for older kids, always start by asking, what do they already know? Especially much older kids, they've got access to social media. They're going to get information from all sorts of avenues that you can't always control. So their friends might be giving them misinformation. They might be seeing the wrong information on the news or social media. So it's just about filling in the gaps, trying not to problem solve or kind of deny their feelings, but just answer their questions openly and honestly. And there's nothing wrong with saying, I'm not sure. Quite a helpful thing for both parents and kids is to kind of let's get out all of our thoughts and feelings and write them down on a piece of paper, and then have one circle which is things that we can control, and the other circle is things we can't control. So we can control what time we choose to eat dinner and what we're eating for dinner, providing we can get the ingredients. But over here, we can't control how long we're going to be in our house for, because that's up to the government to decide how long we need to stay inside to keep safe. And I think with young children, emphasize that they're probably safe. Like, children don't get too ill from this, but we are being really kind by staying inside so that we can protect maybe older people or people who are already ill, and we don't want to get them more ill.
Right.
So it's like a big cough or a cold, but it's just spreading a bit quicker.
Interesting. Thank you so much. My next question is really a question that I've been asked as a rabbi by various members of our community who are really struggling with their children being home the whole time. The children are saying, oh, it's just like a holiday, and they're really resisting doing homeschooling, Zoom calling, and they really don't want to be doing this the whole time. And what's your advice? How rigid or strict can parents be at this time? And how would you advise them to help their children, especially those kids who perhaps until now were doing GCSEs and now they're resisting learning any of those topics because they're no longer relevant for exams, which are no longer happening? What advice would you give to parents?
Okay, so first of all, this is not what homeschooling looks like. And by the way, any parent, if you know something about homeschooling, if a child's been at school and a parent's made the decision to then teach them from home, there's a process called deschooling, which lasts for about a month, where kids are allowed to just kind of chill and adapt. I mean, imagine you went from working in a school to, or if you went from working in a school to working from home, and you went freelance, there is a big adjustment even for adults. And kids who are homeschooled get to leave the house, and those parents have made a choice to do it, and they're not also trying to keep another job. So I think the most important thing is that your kids are healthy and that they feel safe and connected to you. So I'm not normally a person to, I don't let kids do whatever they want, and I think structure and routine is good. But I think we need to try and avoid conflict if we're all living together. And parents will have concerns about their kids' education falling behind. For younger children, they will be fine, even if they miss weeks and weeks or even months of school. Everybody is. So everyone's going through the same thing. I think I've been thinking about this a lot, and I've decided there are a huge number of things that my children will be learning that have nothing to do with the national curriculum or the exam, the content of an exam board, but are way more valuable for life. And I've kind of put it into 4 areas. One is those life skills. So cooking, washing, doing an online shop, decluttering, all that kind of house stuff, which kids, especially older kids, can contribute to a lot more. There's no excuse because they haven't got as much work and they haven't got millions of extracurricular activities and they can't go out with their friends. The other thing is study and work skills. So learning how to manage your time when you don't have the structure of school, being able to persevere, focus, obviously for young children, it's only for short periods of time, being able to manage procrastination, and organize their work environment. These are life skills that they will, again, use in work. The other thing is values. So children mainly learn values or midot from home. And this is a chance to really emphasize, being respectful, being honest, caring for others in the community if they're going to call up grandparents regularly. So you can really emphasize all of this. And also emotional intelligence. And I always say that EQ is more important than IQ. So they are going to be learning how to manage difficult emotions, how to learn to articulate their feelings and really self-regulate when they're incredibly frustrated with their sibling or they're bored or fed up with the situation. So they are learning huge amounts of things within the context of the home that are not on the school curriculum. And young children up to about the age of 5, the best way they learn is through unstructured play. And usually they don't have enough time to do that either. So they're learning different things. With regards to, I mean, GCSE and A levels being cancelled, it is tricky to motivate those kids. I think the year 10s and the year 12s suffer the most out of this whole situation because they're missing potentially a whole term of teaching. I think for the other kids, get them to learn anything. Like actually Sylvia Abrahams had a brilliant idea. She told me she's getting her kids to each watch a TED talk and teach it to the family. Eliana did a whole PowerPoint presentation on Mars and was so proud.
Things are amazing ideas.
Yeah, it's their passion for learning that they can learn anything they want.
A friend of mine who's making their family each day. They're visiting a different country around the world, and at supper time presenting information about that country.
Brilliant, brilliant. And then they are motivated to do it, not because their teacher has told them to, but they've chosen the country or they've chosen the topic, and they're still developing all those same research and presenting skills that they would be doing in school, but they get to choose. It's kind of like the Montessori or Rudolf Steiner way of learning.
Absolutely. Rachel, this has been so helpful and so useful. I think, as we approach Pesach, the Jewish festival next week, we're going to have a 3-day Yom Tov to really bond with our children, and we should prepare for that.
I can't wait for that. No screens, that I'm really excited. The cleaning will be done, and we can just really connect.
For many people who are used to having very huge family Seder nights, this will really be an opportunity to just focus on your children and to try and hone in on some of these ideas that you've suggested.
So true.
Thank you so much for your time. It's great speaking to you, and I wish you a happy Pesach, and thanks for your time.
And you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.